Wow, really?
It's terrible. We used to get, Fools and Horses Christmas special.
Oh, you're making me feel nostalgic. Oh, those are the days.
Programs like that you could always BBC over Christmas.
We used to sit there with bated breath waiting for the Christmas specials, didn't we?
Exactly. And there's none of that anymore. The other guy, John from Newcastle, he said about the bias in the BBC. And to sum it up, I don't
that John from Newcastle was referencing.
Yeah,
what do you think of my idea, Ross? Because I don't have empirical evidence for the bias. I comment and reference it because I know people believe that. So, but what do you think of my idea, which is that if we ring fence the news and public affairs section, so that the license fee pays for that for people that want to consume it, so remove the criminal offence element, obviously, and then all the other stuff is basically what's the word? Subscription service.
Pay-per-view. Yeah. The first problem you've got is that you're far too sensible and pragmatic.
Try telling the people tweeting and texting at me right now. They're asking for me to get sacked because of my view against compulsory vaccinations. I've got to lose my job now, apparently.
Well, the stuff that you've put across this morning has been a breath of fresh air. Normally, I listen to James O'Brien.
Please don't say anything bad, though. Stop. I don't want any bad words said about my colleagues. That's not how I roll. I don't mean in slot, John. I mean in slot, Ross.
Okay. Well, what I'm saying is you're a very good presenter, very professional, and you view all air points, whereas some of the quality of the BBC has gone downhill, and it's a long way short of what I expect as a licence fee payer in return for my £157 a year.
So is it time for reform then, Ross?
How much it is?
It is, definitely. Yeah. If you look that, you can't watch the Grand Prix live anymore unless you pay Sky. This used to be the only thing that I would justify paying my licence fee for, was to see the Formula One. And and I don't get it. I just don't get value for money. It's like these other people that average salary of 77 grand a year. Are we getting value for money for that? And I know there's a lot of people that earn in the millions, and other people that work via sort of holding companies that get money on top of their inflated salaries. But it's, I think it's time for is a long way short of the mark of what I'd expect, or what I'm prepared to pay my £157 for.
All right, Ross. Well, thanks for calling in there. I'm going to read the text quickly. It says redundancy payments would normally be subject to contract of employment, length of service, current salary, and any additional agreements negotiated by recognised trade unions, which I imagine would apply to most BBC staff. That is from Bill. Probably correct, by the way, Bill. And again, to emphasise, my concern isn't with those staff that probably did not just the service but the nation a favour by volunteering for the severance package, because if it is the case that the BBC needs to fill an £800 million hole in their budget by 2021 to 2022, which is around the corner, then wanting the BBC to survive as I do, knowing the forces that are the huge global forces that are up against them, then those people that have taken voluntary redundancy payments are doing the BBC a favour by helping it survive, by lowering that huge gap in their budget. And so for me, that's good news, because I want the thing to survive. So it's not personal against the staff that took the payments. It is a question around the management of the staff of the budget in the BBC. And in terms of the scale of payments, there's a reason the law was brought in after these payments, the highest of which was £150,000 in voluntary redundancy given to staff member. That was a ceiling of the strict to them onwards. It's capped at £95,000. Right, Richard from Halifax. Oh, actually, Richard, wait there, sorry, because we're going to go to the break first. We'll take you after break so that we don't just let you have one word and then end the call with you. You're listening to Imagine Hours here on LBC, and the time is 11:45.
LBC into 2021. Thank you for listening to LBC for the last 12 months, and to me every morning on Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Sat opposite me to take your calls, Prime Minister Boris Johnson.
Good morning, Nick. I'm here on your show.
Call Keir, Sir Keir Starmer, leader of the Labour Party.
This is my first day of freedom.
And you celebrated by coming to see me.
I think you went on the Nick Ferrari show.
The start of Call at the Cabinet 1:30. person who's been front and forward from the word go is the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock. I'll be back in the new year taking your calls for 2021.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
Are you good to go with Sale at Argos? Brighten up your January with great offers on a variety of products. Go online to shop our full range of deals. With Argos, you good to go? Sale ends 21st of January. Selected lines, conditions apply. Subject to availability.
It's difficult to put into words how you feel about someone. Emojis can be misinterpreted, so say it with Zing Flowers. Thank you, I appreciate you. Whatever the message, send a beautiful bouquet or flower gift subscription and say it perfectly with Zing Flowers. Amazing every time.
Here's a great welcome to BritBox. Get 50% off your first 3 months. From drama to documentaries, film to fantastic comedies. Plus, stream exclusive series like BritBox Originals, Spitting Image.
Oh, yes!
So, join BritBox today and save 50% for 3 months. Search BritBox Sale.
Offer ends 10th of January. T's and C's apply. Dine in this new year for just £15 for 2 of you. Enjoy a main, side and wine, plus a starter or dessert. Our best ever chicken Kiev, delicious Conte Poulet Prosecco, and maybe a gastropub melt in the middle pudding. This is not just food, this is M&S food. All your M&S food departments are open. Over 18s only, selected stores only, T's and C's apply.
New Year's resolutions. Eat more carrot sticks. Start skipping. Revamp my radio.
Play LBC.
Got a smart speaker for Christmas? It can do a whole lot more than add carrots to your shopping list. Your new smart speaker gives you easy access to a whole world of digital radio, with great stations and podcasts from Global. Find out more at getdigitalradio.com. Love radio. Go digital.
The Euronics sale is now on, delivering great prices, great value and great local service. This Sony 43-inch 4K HDR LED Android TV is now only $679. Euronics is the home of electricals and the place to go for Sony TVs, and of course always great local service. Find your nearest store or shop online at euronics.co.uk. Subject to availability, see website for full T's and C's.
Right, car needs a clean. Finish my cuppa first. Course the sponge is on the top shelf in the garage. Don't want to drag those steps out just for that. Check weather. 2% chance of snow. Ooh, maybe next weekend.
Don't put things off this year. Get 6 months free data and calls. So the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE is now under £16 a month. Get your skates on. Search your 2 wins a sale.
£15.81 for the first 6 months on a 1 gig custom plan, then £31.81 a month plus RPI, ends 13th of January.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC with Majid Nawaz.
Stay with us for the next debate. After the news from the top of the hour, we'll be talking about young people and mental health. Record numbers of children and young people are being admitted to hospital with eating disorders as they struggle with COVID-19 lockdowns. Are we failing to see the bigger picture beyond our desire simply to eliminate the virus? That's the debate for the next hour. And as I said, we'll be hopefully speaking to somebody from Amnesty to bring us up to date with the tragic case of Lajain Al-Hadlul, the Saudi feminist activist who kicked off the campaign to allow women to drive in Saudi Arabia, which worked. They changed the law, but they punished her for it by throwing her in jail via a terrorism court. So it's very sad. State-sanctioned misogyny. We'll be speaking about that again with Amnesty over the next hour. Let's go back to your calls on the BBC topic. Richard is a new caller from Halifax. Welcome, Richard.
Good morning.
Welcome, thank you. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, my point is to pick you up on the issue of redundancy payments.
Yep, sure.
Well-paid people are on good pensions, good redundancy payments throughout the whole of the wider employment group of people. Solicitors, teachers, head teachers won't be talking about the same sort of salary as there. So I think it's unreasonable to point out the redundancy payments the BBC pays. It'll be competitive with ITV if they were making redundancy.
Can I give you some figures and tell me how you respond to it, Richard?
Go on.
So The 26.6 million total that was paid between April and November this year is more than the BBC's 23.3 million total that was paid to 331 staff for the entire year last year, the entire financial year, and more than the 17.8 million total in 2018. That was the year before that. So it went up.
I missed your point. What exactly? Who are you comparing? Are you comparing the BBC to another company?
I'm saying it went up 3 years in a row, and my question wasn't actually about
what
comparing
it 3 years in a
the
row?
total redundancy payments, and I'm wondering that the fact that they capped the individual payment by law now to 95,000. I'm wondering if you think it's ever appropriate to cap this stuff because it kept going up.
Well, it's something that depends on market forces, which, you know, it is one of those things we might not think they're right. We might not think anyone, a footballer player, for example, should be paid massive salaries, a lot more than the BBC. I think you'll find if you compare the salaries of the BBC with ITV, Channel 4, LBC probably, in fact your own redundancy pay would probably be higher than what the BBC.
So it's a market thing for you. I'm happy to accept that from you, Richard.
I think absolutely think it is.
Yeah, I'm happy to accept that for you. In which case, by consequence, you would agree. Surely
your own pension is probably higher than theirs.
I don't have a pension, but forget a second. Let me just focus on the question I'm putting to you. I'm putting the question to you, which is that surely if market forces are what should prevail, then market forces should prevail, not just in setting salaries.
And they do prevail.
Hold on, sir. Let me put the question to you. Not just in setting salaries. Market forces should therefore also prevail in the way they charge and collect for money. Now, how is it then that the market is abandoned in the collection of fees via the license fee, but you're advocating it for the salaries? And whereas my argument, I think, is slightly more consistent. I'm arguing that we should apply the market on both, and that solves the problem and gets rid of the controversy.
I'm picking you up on the point of salaries, which are lower in the BBC than in other competing
that's not. I really don't. I don't advocate that.
I'm picking you
that's
up
not
on
my point.
pensions. Well, you've changed your point in that case.
No, I remind you. I kicked off by saying. Let me remind you, Richard. Let me remind you, Richard, what I said. Let me remind you. Richard, give me a second to remind you what I said, because I know what I said and I know what I believe. What I said was, I understand the individual motives of people taking this much in redundancies, in particular because of the risk they're taking, leaping into the dark with no guarantee of jobs for the future. I have no problem or qualms with those individuals taking these large redundancy payments. And I said, actually, what my interest is on a macro level, on a management level, how this should be organised going forward in the future. That's really my focus. So I'm wondering if you think there is any room for reform in any of this.
Yeah, and I would pick you up on the comparison with MPs, because MPs, while running the country, are in a peculiar position of getting very, very low salaries compared to their massive responsibilities. The billionaires you're talking about, of course, who are...
Richard, please address the question I just put to you, sir. I don't understand this. What makes people think you can just ignore the question I put to you and carry on talking? Richard, please. I know what you're saying. I'm not disputing it. I'm asking a different thing, which is, do you think there's any room for reform in any of this on a larger scale, on a management scale, on a systemic scale? Let's move away from the individuals that took these redundancies, because I sympathise with them in the current climate. Do you think there's any room for reform in the BBC going forward? I'm arguing it needs to reform because I fear for its survival and I love the institution. Do you think there's any room for reform?
No, I've listened to you before.
Yeah.
You hammer people into submission.
No, Richard, I just put no, sir. You know what? That's it. Enough. I'm sorry. I put a question to you for the third time. If you're going to not do me the courtesy of responding as I respond to you, then this conversation doesn't become a conversation. It becomes you talking at me. I don't talk at you. I respond. If you ask me, in fact, you could ask me any question you like and I will try my best to respond to it. But if you're going to ignore what I ask you and then insult me, then there's other people I can speak to, Richard. I don't have to speak to you about this. So, really, if you want a good, healthy conversation with me, I'm happy to throw it back to you, but I would like you to address the question I put to you, because that's the question I'm interested in. It's the question of the hour. It's not the question that you say it is. It's the question that we opened it up with. I've literally got it written on my sheet here that I wrote for myself to kick the debate off. I'll read it for you. It says, the question, what is the future of the BBC? That's what I'm debating. You don't get to change the debate, Richard. So would you like to address my question? Do you think there is room for reform in
Another
the BBC?
chance,
If you do, what would that
Richard.
look like?
So you're not going to concede the one point anyway. Okay.
Which point are you referencing?
Well, go on from there.
Do you think there's room for reform?
I think the BBC is a marvellous organisation. I listen to Radio 4 a lot.
Oh, God.
And a mixture of the TV.
Answer the
stations.
question.
So, I've got to move on. Do you think there's room for reform in the BBC, and what would that look like?
I'd much prefer if there wasn't reform, because the plan that's being picked up on is decline of the
Okay, so you don't think there's room for reform? That doesn't help us fill the £800 million gap in savings they have to make by 2021. And therefore, I advise you that if you carry on the way you are with the BBC, they'll have a huge £800 million deficit next year. I don't want that for an institution I love, which is why I'm advocating that it change. But thank you, Richard. Let's go to Mike on the line from Margate.
Hi. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't have any problem with the BBC continuing forever. I think historically they've done a great job. But you were asking questions just before this about market forces and should they be working.
Yeah.
And I'd like to focus in on that.
Please.
I mean, obviously the market forces aren't working. And in a way, what's being perpetrated here is a bit of a con. Because although there are lots of good arguments about politics and salaries and all that kind of thing, they're all rebuttable. We can have debates about them forever, really. But there's one point I can't imagine there's any real argument to. And that is, why should I pay the BBC a license fee in order to watch ITV Live when it's in a competitive market with them?
Well, that's the point of the fee, isn't it? That's what I'm saying, that you can't have it both ways. You can't have a market forces on the salaries and not have market forces on the fee.
But that's exactly what I'm saying. Let me put it in another way. If I were to say to you, listeners have got to pay the BBC if they want to listen to LBC live, I don't think that'd go down very well. Equally, if I said to them, right, in order to drink Coca-Cola, in order to buy Coca-Cola, you've got to pay Pepsi, or the other way around. So what we've got, it made sense historically, back in the days when it was a monopoly, it was a charter, they wanted to launch a public broadcasting service. It made perfect sense back then to have a kind of fee. Now, I had a letter recently from the Secretary of State's office, from the Minister's office, in answer to this question that I asked. And what they said was, they avoided the question altogether about the fairness in the market, or even the competition in the market. And they just said the Secretary of State values the BBC, and anyway, the fee that's paid to the BBC is classified, I'm quoting here, is classified as a tax. Now, I'm not sure whether it is classified as a tax. I don't think the Inland Revenue has a direct role.
No.
Are we just being fudged here is the question that I ask. I mean, I'm just thinking, why should... I mean, I'm here. I don't pay for a BBC licence fee anymore. I stopped quite recently. And
have you had any enforcement attempts?
No, I haven't. Not yet. It's early days.
All right, Mike, I've got to move on, I'm afraid. But thank you for calling. You're a new caller. I hope you become a regular caller. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for on the BBC topic. But we're moving to mental health. Record numbers of children and young people are being admitted to hospital with eating disorders as they struggle to cope with COVID-19 lockdowns. And so I'm asking, are we failing to see the bigger picture beyond COVID lockdown restrictions, especially if children are developing eating disorders? That's all coming up here next on LBC, as well as a conversation with a representative from Amnesty International speaking to us about women driving in Saudi Arabia and a campaigner having been thrown in jail for kicking off that campaign, succeeding in changing the law, and yet still punished via Saudi Arabia's terrorism legislation.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at midday, teaching unions are warning they need more time to implement the mass rollout of COVID testing at secondary schools in England. The government has said 1,500 members of the armed forces will be on hand to help when the staggered return to the classroom begins next week. Emma Parker is a teacher in County Durham.
What we have to take into account is these children are going back into their communities. They're mixing with their families, and then the families are going to work, and it will become a vicious circle. And what we don't want is we don't want that immense length of lockdown that we had back in March.
The first people to get the Pfizer vaccine in the UK are set to have their second dose this week. Grandmother Margaret Keenan was the first person in the world to get the jab earlier this month after it was approved by the regulator. It comes as the jab being developed by Oxford University is expected to be sanctioned for use within days. There is a warning England's health service workers are back in the eye of the storm as they deal with more coronavirus infections than in April. More than 20,000 patients are currently being treated in hospital with the virus, which is more than during the first wave. The UK has also hit a new high for daily cases yesterday, just under 41,500. Mervyn Singer is a professor of intensive care medicine at University College London.
I've been doing intensive care for 30 odd years. I've never seen anything like we're experiencing at the moment. You know, yes, there are winter pressures, things are tight, elective surgery has to be cancelled, but now we have the sort of double whammy of sick people who don't have COVID and this huge surge of COVID patients who are incredibly ill.
A woman in her 30s has been charged with murdering a 4-year-old boy in southeast London. He was found at a flat in Plumstead on Sunday morning. She is due in court tomorrow. Storm Bella generated more than half of Great Britain's electricity on Boxing Day. It was the first time that energy supply from wind had powered as much as it did over 24 hours. Energy firm Drax says 50.67% came from turbines. The previous record of 50% had been set in August. In the city a short time ago, the FTSE 100 was trading at 66.44. That's up 148 points. The pound buys €1.10 and $1.35. The weather, inland areas mostly staying dry with some sunshine this afternoon, but still feeling cold. Wintry.
Change your phone. Just let it run overnight, darling, I think, and do it tomorrow, yeah? What about if I take the SD card out of my tablet that I got the other day? It's, I think it's a terabyte, and then I plug it to your SD card, and you could transfer it that way, no? Well, you've got an SD card on your laptop, haven't you? Yeah. All laptops come with SD cards. It's a socket, yeah, which is to about the 1.5 times the size of a USB port, yeah. Very often they're on the front because people mix and match their SD card, so you know people want easy access. Oh, I don't.
Hey?
Straight left already?
He's not in there.
Oh, he left? Okay. Let me go and speak, please. You want to speak? You want to speak?
It's alright.
Oh, you go downstairs. No, these photos on there are what, lost now? I can't cover it up. I just need a coffee and some food because I'm so depressed.
Yeah. Well, just plug an SD card into your laptop and that's all.
Yeah.
Because you plug your phone into your laptop, you have an SD card which appears as another drive on your laptop, and you just drag and drop. It'll take a few hours, but it will get there.
As long as it's done, you know? Yeah. I have 11 years worth of photos on it, 10,000 photos, which isn't a lot. You would have much more, you know?
Yeah. You should
But
really
it seems
do it.
like
You should really do it as you go. Use this as a lesson. You should automatically do it.
Well, to be honest, there seem to be 75 gigabyte already on the PC under Apple, so that seems to be quite a chunk of photos.
Probably already there, isn't it?
So I'm missing like 25 or 28 gig.
Johnny! What's the doggy doing, eh?